When you look at the music scene in the U.S. as compared to other parts of the world, is there a difference?
Well, it's big. It's very big.
In terms of people coming out to shows, or what do you mean?
Well, it's you know, the United States has really exported its culture around the world in the 20th century. That was the American century, and the music is a really big part of that. You know, I mean, we wouldn't be playing rock and roll and playing Gibson guitars and Fender guitars and playing if we hadn't heard American music on our little transistor radios in the 50s. You know. Because living in London after the war was miserable. I mean, everything was black and white. You know, it was just a few dance bands, and all of a sudden we heard this wonderful music that came over from America. So, but I mean, it's so organised, and of course, for any British band, the real jewel in the crown is to come to America and make it in America, which is to some degree we did in the 70s. I mean, we were up to playing sort of stadiums and that kind of thing. But you know, these days, what blew my mind when I first came here was that it was a business, you know. It was like amateur hour in Europe to some degree, you know. We had so-called Tin Pan Alley, but it wasn't like, you came over here, it was a corporate thing, very highly organised, and you got radio, pluggers, promo. I mean, when we first came to the States, I couldn't believe it. We were taken around we had our own promo guys, and we'd go around the radio stations, and it was all very, very organised.
Is that good for the music, or do you lose that roots?
Good and bad. I mean, you know, in the old days, I mean, hundreds of years ago, I mean, artists, musicians were patronised by royalty and that kind of thing. So I wonder if some of those bands would have done as much. I mean, I don't know if we would have produced as much if we weren't being flogged by the record labels, you know. I mean, there was a lot of, okay, they were paying good money. So, you know, but then, yeah, there was a lot of, these days, a lot of contrived stuff with, you know, the pop idol thing and the reality this and that, and it's all a bit plastic. But there's still wonderful music in this country and incredible musicians, the best in the world.
Do we hear it on the radio? I mean, that's
the problem.
Do you guys think so too? Andy, I'm
more so here than back in Britain.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
More here than back in Britain or something.
Really?
Do you reckon?
I think so, yeah.
You think you hear more of the cutting edge or the newest development, or just a garage sort of band coming out with an album on the radio here?
I don't think there's almost no outlet in Britain that I've heard.
That's true. Yeah, Britain's gone very pop. I mean, it's here, but you've got to dig for it. I mean, once you get past Clear Channel and all that, you know.
Clear Channel. I mean, we were talking about Montage Mountain before, where we saw the not Underground.
Revolver.
That'd be really cool. Well, Revolver, that's Clear Channel. They own that mountain. The radio station's out here. The radio station that's pushing you guys is owned by Clear Channel, Mountain.
Is it? Yeah.
Same thing in Finland. Same thing in Scotland. Is the music? Is it all pop corporate stuff that you hear on the radio, or do you hear some?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as in Europe. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
There's some great musicians up in Finland, though.
We don't listen to it in America. That's the thing. If I go to Italy, you hear American music. You hear music from France. You hear music from everywhere.
That's right. Yeah.
In the United States, we just listen to American music, basically.
That's true. You got to really dig for it.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we're going to France in a couple of weeks, and we love it because we go in the club and we hear some Algerian singer. You know, what the hell is, what's that? You know, we were in Turkey. We were buying up CDs of their sort of players, and they do some like ethnic stuff with some nice modern touches to it. You know, and it's really
incredible players.
Very interesting and great players. Yeah.
Well, here's another question for you then. On that line of thinking, what sort of artists, musical genres inspire you, or you really? What are they that really make you sit back and go, wow?
So much of it.
Well, you were talking about Scottish music last night.
I mean, there's just an incredible amount of music out there. If you think about all the music that has been, but it's still there. I mean, you can still buy it and play it, and there is actually new music. You know, hearing the guys there, there is a lot of really good stuff, new stuff coming out of Britain and out of America as well. There's a lot of young kids who are really, you know, in rehearsal rooms, and they're coming out with some great ideas, great music, and it's sort of the one thing about the older music, it's there, and it'll always be there.
The traditional stuff that's been around for 500 years, you mean that sort of?
Well, right now, if you look at early 70s music, that's like almost becoming...
I'm
know,
wondering how far back you're going. I mean, if you go
Oh,
to...
right, okay.
Well,
Well,
we
you
were
go right
Scotland,
back.
or you go to
You're going
England.
right back. You want to go right back to the roots of it. Well, I
Before
don't-
amplification, before,
You
when
know.
people are just sitting around playing the instruments they made themselves, is that stuff being kept alive? And do you
Oh,
guys
yeah.
tap into that ever?
Some areas, yeah.
Well, the sound of our band, I mean, we all grew up with listening to probably English, British classical music and, choirs and there's a little bit of that in our music. I mean, I think that a lot of European bands have that as opposed to American bands probably more rooted in the blues and country,
Right.
Well, sure, we use those elements too, but some of our chord progressions are definitely more European, which goes back to, the early days of music, which we all, we go into church, singing hymns, all that kind of stuff, it rubs off on you, it's there in your subconscious,
Yeah, no doubt about that.
But I mean, right now, well, like we're doing this gig here, the first night we're playing, we're augmenting the band with a fiddle and a accordion, and we were sitting talking with Tony DeMarco as the fiddle player last night, and he's just got back from the Orkney Islands playing fiddle up there in north of Scotland, and he was telling us about the music scene up there with the young kids. I mean, kids. He was taking a camp, he was telling us, with 150 fiddle players. I mean, that's incredible.
They're young kids from 9 to 12. They were,
Yeah, 9 to 12.
Yeah.
Learning the traditional fiddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And they're very much, at that age, they're rooted into their music and their culture, and they didn't want to be known as Scottish fiddle players. They were from the Orkneys, wasn't it? The Orkney Islands, yeah.
Yeah, they kind of like to distance themselves. Although it's Scotland, they don't like to be called Scots. They're Orcanians or whatever they call themselves, Yeah, it's
Well,
weird.
I think like with rock, I mean, a lot of the rock thing has become a bit of a cliche, and a lot of it's been done really well. I mean, so many great American bands. I think if we're really honest, a lot of the times to get inspiration, we're listening to stuff that's probably not rock. It's probably, but we bring it into a rock context.
You mean jazz or different sorts of
Yeah.
cultural?
Yeah,
You mentioned Algerian or Northern African or Middle Eastern.
Yeah,
that kind of
absolutely.
thing?
I'm
Anything.
definitely checking
Anything?
that out.
Absolutely
Yeah.
anything, yeah.
Asian, Indian.
old Italian pop songs.
Fantastic, yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, corny stuff,
Yeah.
George Klezmer, anything, I mean. Well, this band, we talk about travel. We toured India 4 times,
Oh man.
And
it must be-
we were one of the few rock bands that actually was brave enough to get on the road in India. And so we would go into these places and hear the most incredible stuff. I mean, these classical female singers, they're doing all this microtonal stuff. And you feel
microtonal stuff?
tonal.
Tonal.
They go like these quarter tones in there. With their pitching, it's incredible, and they study ragas from the age of 2. And I was listening to somebody the other day who was saying that he learnt all these ragas, and by the time he was 4, he'd learnt 337 ragas.
Now,
These little pieces, yeah. And they teach this even before they can talk and stuff. And that's where they start as musicians.
And a raga is just a little song?
It's a musical phrase, that's it, and they give it a name. And a kid, apparently at that age, has got the ability to learn and identify those little pieces. I mean, you've got kids. I mean, your kids play music?
Yeah,
too?
all the time.
They pick it up real quick.
They do.
I mean, all kids, have got that ability. But then you lose it a little bit as you grow older. But musicians have found a way to tap in and keep that active, or we try.